You have been here before. You can feel it. Something is finally working. The momentum is real. The goal that once felt impossibly far away is now close enough to touch. And then, out of nowhere, you do something to ruin it. You pick a fight. You stop showing up. You suddenly convince yourself the whole thing was a bad idea. You find a reason, a surprisingly convincing reason, to walk away from the very thing you have been working toward. And then you spend the next 6 months trying to understand what happened. Here is what nobody tells you. That destruction was not random. It was not weakness. It was not a character flaw. It was your brain running a very specific, very ancient program. And today we are going to look at the neuroscience that explains exactly why your brain lights the match right before the house is finished. Because once you understand the mechanism, you stop being a victim of it. Let's start with the hardware. Your brain has one obsessive, non-negotiable priority. It is not happiness. It is not success. It is not even survival in the way most people think about it. Your brain's single deepest drive is to conserve energy by making the world predictable. Neuroscientists call this the brain's predictive processing system. At every single moment, your brain is running a simulation. It is constantly generating a model of what the world should look like, what should happen next, and most critically, what you deserve. Think of it like a thermostat. A thermostat does not want warmth. It does not want cold. It simply wants the temperature to stay exactly where it has been set. Your brain is the same. It has a set point, a deeply embedded picture of who you are and what your life is supposed to look like. And it will work exhaustingly hard to keep your reality matching that picture. Now here is where it gets personal. For most of us, that set point was calibrated early, before we had the language to question it. Maybe you grew up in an environment where trying too hard led to disappointment. Maybe success in your family came with strings attached. Maybe the people around you communicated, not with words but with their reactions, that wanting too much was dangerous, that standing out was unsafe, that getting too big would cost you something important. Your young brain absorbed that data and built a model that says, this is the ceiling. This is as far as someone like you goes. For years, that model may have been invisible to you. You set goals. You work hard. You make progress. And everything feels fine until you get too close. The moment your real life starts to exceed the life your brain has modeled, the predictive processing system sends an alert, an error signal. Not because something is wrong with your life, but because something is wrong with your prediction. Psychologists call this a prediction error, and your brain experiences it not as excitement, not as pride, but as threat. The bigger the breakthrough, the bigger the threat signal. And your brain responds to threat the same way it always has. It activates your oldest survival system, the amygdala, and it starts searching for an exit. The exit might look like self-doubt. It might look like manufactured chaos. It might look like suddenly finding fatal flaws in the very thing you have been building. It might look like picking a fight with the person supporting you most. The form changes. The function is always the same. Get back inside the ceiling. Return to the known. Restore the prediction. There is a name for this pattern in behavioral psychology. It is called the upper limit problem, a term introduced by researcher Gay Hendricks. The idea is simple. Every person has an internal thermostat set to a certain level of happiness, success, and love. When your life exceeds that level, your system triggers an internal event to bring you back down. But I want to go deeper than that, because the upper limit problem is not just a psychological quirk. It is a physiological experience. Neuroscientists have found that when people who carry a low internal set point begin moving towards significant success, the brain begins releasing a chemical cocktail that feels almost identical to anxiety. Cortisol rises. The prefrontal cortex, your rational, visionary, goal-oriented mind, begins to go offline, and the survival brain takes the wheel. From the outside, it looks like self-sabotage. From the inside, it feels like clarity. The excuses your brain generates feel real. They feel logical. They feel necessary. Your brain is not lying to you. It genuinely believes you are in danger. It is protecting you from something it has decided is too far outside the model. The problem is that the model is old. The model was built by a younger version of you who did not yet know what you know now. But why does this happen specifically before the breakthrough? Why not earlier in the process? because earlier in the process, the goal still feels abstract. It is still safely theoretical. Your brain can tolerate you working towards something as long as it does not fully believe you are going to get there. But the moment success becomes concrete, the moment the evidence is undeniable, the threat becomes real. Think about a rocket leaving the atmosphere. The most violent turbulence does not happen at launch. It happens at the boundary layer, the point where you are transitioning from one world to another. Psychologists actually use a similar metaphor. They call this the threshold effect. The closer you get to crossing a genuine threshold in your life, the harder your nervous system pushes back. This is why the most damaging moments of self-sabotage tend to happen late in the game. When the relationship is becoming something real, when the business is finally gaining traction, when the project is almost complete, when the opportunity is right in front of you. Your nervous system does not fear failure. It has made peace with failure. It knows exactly how failure feels, and it knows how to survive it. What your nervous system fears is unfamiliar success, a version of you it has never had to manage before. So what do you actually do with this? The first tool is what we can call naming the ceiling. When you feel that sudden, suspicious urge to retreat, the inexplicable doubt, the manufactured problem, the impulse to blow something up, stop. Do not fight it. Do not analyze it in the moment. Just name it out loud or in writing. My brain is hitting its ceiling right now. This single act does something profound. It creates separation between you and the reflex. You are no longer inside the panic, you are observing it. Neuroscientists call this affect labeling. When you name an emotional state accurately, activity in the amygdala measurably decreases. You are not suppressing the feeling. You are simply stepping one level above it. From that position, you can make a choice. The reflex no longer has to become a behavior. The second tool is expanding the model. Remember, the sabotage happens because your internal model says you are not supposed to be here. The model needs new data. Specifically, it needs evidence that the person you are becoming is safe to be. In a simple document, your phone notes are enough. Begin collecting proof. Not affirmations, not wishful statements, actual evidence. Moments where you handled pressure well. Moments where you did the hard thing and survived. Moments where someone responded to the real you with acceptance rather than punishment. You are building a case file. You are showing your nervous system the receipts. You are manually updating the prediction. This is not journaling for the sake of it. This is targeted reprogramming. The brain updates its model through repeated, credible exposure to new data. Every entry in that document is a vote for a new set point. The third tool is what researchers call threshold rehearsal. Because the brain fears the unfamiliar, one of the most effective interventions is to make success familiar before it arrives. Spend time, real, unhurried time, imagining yourself on the other side of the threshold, not the moment of achievement, the morning after, the week after. What does the ordinary texture of that life feel like? What does it feel like to wake up inside the version of your life you have been building? The goal is not visualization as motivation. The goal is to reduce the novelty of success, to give your nervous system a preview so that when the real moment arrives, the prediction error is smaller. The turbulence at the boundary layer is less violent because your brain has already run the simulation. It has already, in some small way, been there. Here is what I want you to hold on to after today. The moments when you have burned things down right before they were finished. Those were not failures of character. They were your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. Protecting the model, enforcing the ceiling, restoring the prediction. But the model is not permanent. The ceiling is not made of stone. It is made of old data. And old data can be updated. The breakthrough you keep approaching and turning away from is not waiting for you to become braver. It is waiting for you to show your own nervous system enough evidence that the person who crosses that threshold is still unmistakably safe. You have already survived everything that built that ceiling. That means you built it. And anything you built, you can raise. The turbulence you are feeling right now is not a warning. It is a signal. You are at the boundary layer. And the other side is closer than your brain wants you to believe.